This video is designed to go over the process of automating, scheduling, and monitoring API tests with API Fortress. So our first kind of premise here is that we're going to assume that a test is written and published. So we have these published tests here. The next step in this process is going to be to schedule them so that they run in an automated fashion rather than having to be manually triggered like this. So we're going to click on the calendar button in any of these test bars. It will automatically populate in. If you don't see it, or if it's grayed out rather, I would recommend making sure that the test itself is published. So we'll click the calendar, and that'll bring us to the scheduler. With the scheduler, we can create a new run. We can name our run, so we'll call this video schedule, because we're on video. Then we'd select our downloader, and this is the server that's going to actually issue the request in question. With the scheduler, we can actually issue, or we can select multiple downloaders, so we can have multiple regions tested simultaneously. And then finally, we're going to select the minutes of the day that this test will execute. So with it set up like this, I would run this test every day at the 0th, 10th, 20th, 30th, and 40th minute of every hour of every month. I can further refine that timing by selecting hours, days of the month, and finally months of the year. So we can get some real granularity with regards to when this test actually executes. Once I'm done here, I would just click Save, and the schedule will save, and then that test schedule will run in the background until paused or deleted. So if we take a look at this test run here, we can see that this one is set specifically to run on the 0th, 20th, and 40th minute of every hour of every day of every month. And it's been doing so for quite some time. And up here you'll see all set running, downloader correctly set. This schedule is good to go. If we wanted to get rid of it, we could click delete run or hover over and hit the trash can here as well. Once these schedules are saved, then this data is going to have to go somewhere, and where it actually goes is the dashboard. So let's take a quick peek at the dashboard, which is primarily there for monitoring purposes. So in this logs view here, we see a generalized kind of up and down pass or fail view of each of these individual tests. So we can see all the most recent tests that run. We can see that one manual execution that I did when we were taking a look at the test list here. And if we click into any of these, we can see the test report itself, or we can generate an external link to pass a test report to somebody who doesn't have access to the platform directly. And then finally, if we wish, we can delete any of these entries. If, for example, you executed a manual and you want to get that out of the equation so that you're only seeing the automated runs. Warnings and failures will populate into these columns here. The metrics view gives us a view on how our endpoints are individually performing from a performative perspective. So we'll see latency and fetch here for each of the endpoints that are happening in each of these workflows. We also see kind of a charting over time of how latency and fetch are being reported. Finally, the availability dashboard gives us a picture of the generalized health of our API ecosystem. We'll see each endpoint as they get hit by each test, and then the most recent status code that they returned, the downloader that hit them, and what time and date that those tests occurred on. Finally, if we want to take a larger scale view at the health of our API environment, we can click on the API quality dashboard. So what this does is it gives us a picture of how our API tests from the functional view, how our tests have performed over the past 90 days, the past 3 months. And then we populate in these failure trends here, which give us an idea of whether the tests are performing better or worse than the previous month. We can also flip this to a performative view and take a look at the past 3 months of API endpoint behavior, so we can see all of our endpoints populated in here for this project with regards to response time. And if we mouse over, we'll see both latency and fetch. Finally, if we want to see kind of the performance of the entire kind of company as a whole from more of a DevOps view, we can click the settings button up here in the corner and then click on big screens, and that'll propagate a publicly shareable link for us. And if we click on that, we'll copy it, open a new tab, drop that link in, and hit go. And now we're looking at the entire company. So these are all the projects in this company. This specific company has a lot of demonstration projects, so it's a bit messy. But if we click into one of these specifically, we can get a better idea of what this actually looks like in practice. So here we can see all the tests that are listed in this specific project. Again, in a more DevOps-friendly view. This view can actually be leveraged by a smart TV, so it will respond to a remote control. If we want to see the individual endpoints that are being tested here, we can click on the Endpoints tab, and that'll bring us to a separate view where we can click into each of these individual endpoints, minimum, average, and maximum response time, how the past few runs fared. So in this case, we're seeing a lot of failures. a split between downtime and uptime over here, and then a charting of latency and download over time.